Good day, classmates, and to you, Sir Dale. I am Jessabel Cantiberos, and in this juncture, I will be discussing affective assessment. So in this lesson, students are expected to design an assessment tool to measure the effective outcomes of learning. Affective assessment is a measurement of a student's attitudes, interests, and/or values. In this case, this assessment is non-cognitive because it does not necessarily measure progress in a specific topic such as knowing, the thought process, thinking skills, or the application of knowledge. Affective assessment also does tell us, the teachers, about the students' attitudes about the relevance and importance of the content they are to learn, and also their beliefs concerning their own ability to learn. It is believed that the desire and motivation to learn are key to getting a positive education, but if none of those exist, there is no learning. So as a teacher, we do not just measure our students cognitively but also effectively in order for us to assess and determine their future behaviors. It is important for us teachers since we do not just teach them academics but also we teachers shape their characteristics since their most time are spent in school than in their home. It is important also for us teachers to know if their feelings towards learning is positive because it will incline them to pursue learning in the future. Although it is important that we cognitively assess our students, it is also important that they are effectively assessed so that we can help them mold, assess, and determine their future behavior, perhaps about having specific views, opinions, and behaviors about specific careers they have in mind. And Popham also believes that before having cognitive domains, teachers should motivate students to think positively towards their attitudes, value, beliefs, and dispositions of learning. And that is clearly stated when he says, affective variables are often more significant than cognitive variables. So this is the figure for the levels of affective domain of learning. So the affective domain forms a hierarchical structure and is arranged from simpler feelings to those that are more complex. The hierarchical structure is based on the principle of internalization. Internalization refers to the process whereby a person's affect toward an object passes from a general awareness level to a point where the effect is internalized and consistently guides or controls the person's behavior. Therefore, with the movement to more complexity, individuals become more involved, committed, and internally motivated. This domain is further categorized into following 5 levels, which is the receiving or attending, responding, valuing, organizing, and lastly characterizing. So first, for the receiving refers to the student's willingness to attend to particular phenomena or stimuli. Example for this is the classroom, activities, textbook, music, etc. From a teaching standpoint, it is concerned with getting, holding, and directing the student's attention. Learning outcomes in this area range from the simple awareness that a thing exists to selective attention on the part of the learner. Receiving represents the lowest level of learning outcomes in the affective domain. And the keywords for this will be asks, chooses, shows willingness, describes, follows, pay attention, holds, identifies, locates, names, points to, selects, and sits attentively. An example for this will be the pupil listens. So thus, the pupil listens attentively to teacher, shows awareness of the importance of learning, attends closely to the classroom activities. Next one, the second one is responding. It refers to active participation on the part of the student. At this level, he not only attends to a particular phenomenon but also reacts to it in some way. Learning outcomes in this area may emphasize acquiescence in responding or reads beyond assignment, or satisfaction in responding, which is the reads for pleasure or enjoyment. The higher levels of this category include those instructional objectives that are commonly satisfied under interest, that is, those that stress the seeking out and enjoyment of particular activities. So the keywords for responding will be answers, replies, responds, assists, complies, conforms, discusses, greets, help, labels, performs, and so on. Example for this will be, the pupil responds to the teacher's question. or participates in a group discussion, and then the pupil gives a presentation and complies with procedures or follows directions. Third one is valuing. Valuing is concerned with the worth or value a student attaches to a particular object, phenomenon, or behavior. This ranges in degree from the simpler acceptance of a value or the desires to improve group skills to more complex level of commitment that assumes responsibility for the effective functioning of the group. Valuing is based on the internalization of a set of specified values, but clues to these values are expressed in the student's overt behavior that is consistent and stable enough to make the value clearly identifiable. Instructional objectives that are commonly classified under attitudes and appreciation would fall into this category. Keywords for this will be completes, describes, differentiates, explains, follows, forms, initiates, invites, joins, justifies, proposes, reads, reports, shares, studies, and works. An example for this would be the pupil, wherein the pupil demonstrates problem-solving attitude, the pupil appreciates good literature, and the pupil supports ideas to improve proficiency. Next one, or the fourth one, will be organizing. Organizing is concerned with bringing together values, resolving conflicts between them, and beginning the building of an internally consistent value system. Thus, the emphasis is on comparing, relating, and synthesizing values. Learning outcomes may be concerned with the conceptualization of a value, or that recognizes the responsibility of each individual for improving human relations, or with the organization of a value system, develops a vocational plan that satisfies his need for both economic security and social service. Instructional objectives relating to the development of a philosophy of life would fall into this category. Keywords for this will be adheres, alters, arranges, combines, compares, completes, defends, explains, and so on. The example for this will be the pupil spends more time in study than sports. The pupil prioritizes time effectively to meet the needs of the study, family, and self. And the pupil understands and accepts own strengths and weaknesses. Fifth one, or the last one, which is the highest level of the hierarchy, is the characterization or the characterizing. So, at characterization level of the affective domain, the individual has a value system that has controlled his behavior for a sufficiently long time for him to develop a characteristic lifestyle. Thus, the behavior is pervasive, consistent, and predictable. Learning outcomes at this level cover a broad range of activities, but the major emphasis is on the fact that the behavior is typical or characteristic of the student. Instructional objectives that are concerned with the student's general patterns of adjustment, such as personal, social, emotional, would be appropriate here. Keywords would be acts, discriminates, displays, influences, listens, modifies, performs, practices, and so on. Example would be the pupil shows self-reliance when working independently. The pupil cooperates in group activities or displays teamwork. The pupil uses an objective approach in problem solving, and the pupil values people for what they are, not how they look. So what are the affective variables in learning? So the first one is attitude. In attitude, of course, we always do have attitudes towards something, whether negative or positive, favorable or unfavorable toward an object, activity, person, or environment. So in teaching, we desired for the students to foster positive attitude towards learning, subject, teachers, classmates, homework, projects, wearing of uniforms, and attendance to flag ceremony. And on the other hand, we want students to have a negative attitude toward cheating, bullying, fighting, drugs, absenteeism, and smoking. So second one is value and beliefs. So we all have values and principles that we really hold on to and consider to be right. And those values will guide us on our future actions and decisions. meaning we rely our decisions on what are our values and on what we believe. In school setting, values are included in the curriculum, so us teachers will be able to promote these values in students, and these are honesty, patience, perseverance, respect for others, cleanliness and order, care or opinions we hold to be true even without evidence. So see, these values are really promoted in school, and we all know that since we have experienced that in school. So here in beliefs, it is traditionally associated with religion, meaning we always base our beliefs on our religions. It is on what we believe on our religion. An example for this will be gender equality. There are instances where schools do consider members of the LGBTQ plus community to wear what they are comfortable to wear. And there are also schools, especially the Christian or the Catholic schools, who do not promote this kind of practices. It is true that our beliefs are associated with religion, but sometimes that religion hinders us to be true to ourselves. Third one is interest. So this is the attention that we give towards an object, idea, or an event. Example for this in the classroom setting is that a student is interested in a topic, specifically in a subject which is mathematics rather than English. So the interest of student towards a certain topic really drives the learner to be attentive. And interest may be situational or personal, meaning like in personal interest, it is really a permanent interest, while situational interest is just temporary and is aroused by specific features of an activity or a task. Number 4 is motivation. It really is an inner drive where we are motivated to do something. It may be because you have desired for that for a long time, or that there are many factors on why we are motivated, like family, we have our role model, and etc. And this motivation will be the drive to pursue a goal and is willing to give it all. Fifth one is confidence or self-confidence. So basically, it is how you see yourself on how capable you are. Well, in students, it enables them to handle setbacks with ease. So when a student fails, instead of being crippled by failure, resilient students get up quickly, learn from their mistake, and try again. They accept that failure is a part of life and take more chances as a result, which makes them even more successful in life. So what are assessment tools that are used to measure effective learning? So now we have already know how important it is to effectively assess our students, so we will proceed to know the tools used to effectively assess the students. So first one will be self-report questionnaire. So from the name itself, the respondent or the student will be asked to answer a question about him, self, or herself, like behavior, emotions, feelings, or views. Here, we could diagnose a student's mental and emotional state, like what teachers conduct, like a pre-test and post-test is an example. So self-report inventories use a variety of formats. The most common are presented in the following. First one is the Likert scale. So a variety of methods are available to assist evaluators in gathering data. One of those methods involves the use of a scale. One of the most common scale type is a Likert scale. A Likert scale is commonly used to measure attitudes, knowledge, perceptions, values, and behavioral changes. A Likert type scale involves a series of statements that respondents may choose from in order to rate their responses to evaluate questions. So here in Likert scale, there are statements or questions followed by a series of 5 or 7 answer statements. Respondents choose the option that best corresponds with how they feel about the statement or question. So this is an example of the options where they will choose, and this is a 7-point Likert scale. So, writing statements for rating scale for self-report. Some guidelines might be of help in creating your self-report assessment. So number one is statements should refer to the present conditions rather than past or future situations. Two, the statement should be relevant to the psychological construct being measured. Three, avoid factual statements since the nature of what is assessed are affective traits. Four, statements should elicit a response that lends itself to one interpretation. Five, statements should be clear and simple sentences using precise and direct language. 6. Considering that responses in the instrument reflect gradation, statements should no longer contain always, nearly, only, never, and just, since these words are ambiguous or not clear. 7. Use vocabulary appropriate for the level of understanding of the respondents. And last one, avoid double negative sentences. So steps in construction of the rating scale. First, select the affective trait you want to assess which you find relevant to teaching learning situation. 2. Construct items that are clear, definite, and focus on the trait you want to measure. 3. Pilot test or field try the inventory and revise the parts that appear to be unclear. 4th and lastly, administer the self-report inventory to your target respondents. 5. Analyze the result and consider the findings and draw the implication. So, semantic different. A semantic differential scale is a type of rating scale that weighs respondents' perceptions of or attitudes towards a specific subject matter through an array of questions. This rating scale allows individuals, organizations, and other stakeholders to measure the emotive meaning of words in predetermined text. So this is an example of a semantic differential scale. As we can see, there are two opposite adjectives at both ends and respondents are to mark their position. So third one is checklist. So still checklist is under the self-report questionnaires and is to identify the presence or absence of a feeling, attitude, or behavior. And at the end of the assessment, the checked behaviors will reflect what values and beliefs learners hold, and the unchecked behaviors are what the learners do not hold. So this is an example of a checklist. So we will move on to the second assessment tool, which is interview. Here in interview, of course, we cannot interview a respondent without talking to them. I actually do prefer this kind of assessment tool since the teacher could collect more and explore more in-depth informations, giving follow-up questions to a question. Us teachers can get a better understanding of the student's personality, motivation, and interests. And again, in-depth information about the trait being assessed that cannot be captured by a written instrument nor even be observed. So for interview to be an effective assessment tool, the following are general steps in developing and conducting interview. First, select the assessment objectives. Second, list the oral questions in sequence based on the objectives. Third, make a report sheet or any form to record responses. Fourth, conduct the interview. Fifth, record the responses, both elicited responses and responses that were aided by prompts. So third one on the list of an assessment tool will be student journals. Here, of course, there are students who want to express more and think aloud through writing. So this is also a good and effective assessment tool. Student journal is a tool students can use to communicate with a teacher and self-evaluate their learning progress. Students are able to ask teachers questions in the journal about specific skills that they may be too shy to ask in class. In choosing journal writing as an assessment tool for effective learning outcomes, here are some guide questions to consider. First, what is your purpose for the student journal writing? Second, what is the format? Third, what is the topic? Fourth, how much do you want your students to write about? Fifth, how will the students be given feedback? Sixth, who will read the journal? And seventh, how will the students be graded? Last on the list is observation. Here in observation, the teacher will not be needing separate time with the student to answer the measuring instrument. The teacher will just observe the student in the classroom. Observation provides the opportunity to monitor or assess a process or situation and document evidence of what is seen and heard. Seeing actions and behaviors within a natural context or as they usually occur provides insights and understanding of the event, activity, or situation being evaluated. So the measures obtained from observation approach can be made more valid and reliable with the following guidelines. First, set clear definition of the affective trait you want to observe. Second, prepare a checklist or rating scale that will define the more specific affective behavior you want to capture. Third, consult with a colleague or expert about the behavior listed as doable for observation or not. Fourth, have a colleagues to work with you in the actual observation time. Fifth, be clear on ethical issues. Sixth, record the observation immediately. Seventh, review data reflection and outcomes. 8. Decode further steps based on the observation results. 9. Adjust planning and apply interventions. And 10. Monitor progress. So that is all about effective assessment tool, and I hope we all understand its meaning, its types and guidelines on how to do it. And most importantly, to design an assessment tool to measure the effective learning or the effective outcomes of learning. Thank you for listening and have a good day.